Travis stretched his long legs and gazed out the window. A happy smile lit his broad, plain face as he watched the lush farmland roll by. "We are riding on a little piece of history here, Murph." Murphy flicked a glance at his partner. "It's a train. People ride 'em all the time, Travis." "Don't be such a gloomy Gus. Trains are woven into the fabric of this great land, Murph. Think about it. Soldiers returning from the war, that dead guy shipped home to his green, green grass, Casey Jones at the throttle, the old men in the club car, the devil's long black train. That kid's book, what was it called? The Polar Express, and get your big feet out of the aisle before somebody trips over them." "Yeah, the Polar Express." "You read kids' books, Murph?" Travis's brow wrinkled in a puzzled frown. Murphy suppressed a chuckle. That puzzled look had led more than one miscreant to underestimate Travis. "I read it to my nieces last Christmas." "Right. You looked after her kids while your sister went on a cruise." Travis dragged his gaze from the window to study his partner. "You ever go on a cruise, Murph?" "I prefer to soak up history on a train ride down the Sunshine Coast." Travis pursed his lips. "Yeah, I get it. On a cruise, you might have fun. Maybe meet someone." A faint smile lifted the corners of Murphy's mouth. "Thank you, Yentl. Feet." "Huh?" A perfectly manicured hand tapped Travis's sleeve. "Excuse me?" The hand was attached to a slender arm. Travis's gaze followed the arm up to a sculpted oval face and a pair of smoldering dark eyes. "Sorry." He jerked upright and straightened his jacket. The eyes smoldered some more as they surveyed 6'4" of lanky, rumpled, plainclothes investigator. Red lips curled in a sultry smile. Her voice dripped Tupelo honey, about 3 degrees off freezing. "Not at all, Detective, and may I say, I feel so much safer knowing y'all are on the job." Travis stared after the young woman, mesmerized by her graceful sashay up the aisle. That was the only word for it in his estimation. Sashay. Murphy shook his head. "Way to piss off the press, Travis." His partner's stormy liaison with April Avery, GBQN's news anchor, was probably the worst-kept secret in the precinct. As the door closed behind April, Travis left his admiration of her shapely southern exposure to turn an aggrieved stare on his partner. "This was supposed to be a secret assignment, Murph. I told her what we were told to say, that we're on vacation." He sighed. "Some vacation, babysitting a racehorse." "What do you expect? She was scooped by the papers." Murph flapped a copy of the Miami Herald Tribune. Its banner headline screamed, "Mayor's $1 million filly off to the races." The article gushed about how the prize pony would travel to Hialeah in the company of 2 city detectives. Travis tossed the paper aside in disgust. "Well, ain't that just peachy? We're sworn to secrecy and the mayor's running his mouth." Murphy snorted. "Come on, Travis, this had publicity stunt written all over it from the get-go. We're just window dressing." A soft chuckle floated across the aisle. "Well, if you're looking to do some real detecting, you could always try your hand at solving the disappearance of Ruth Ann Warren." "Who's she?" Travis asked. "Pretty girl. Secretary. Got on the Orange Blossom Special in 1946 on her way to Miami. She never arrived, and no one ever saw her again." "Maybe she doesn't want to be found, Mr. Carson." Deep-set gray eyes twinkled in a seamed, lean jaw's face. "My friends call me Kit. Their little joke." He winked at Travis. "No relation to the famous Carson." Travis stuck out his hand. "Sean Travis. That's my partner, Alex Murphy." "Pleased to meet you." Carson's bass rumble seemed to resonate up from his boots. "She wants to be found all right, son, though some would probably like her story to stay buried." Murphy scrubbed a hand over his face. Why do I get the feeling you're going to tell us all about her? Carson grinned, his voice falling into the cadenced rhythm of a practiced storyteller. 50 years ago this summer, Ruth Ann Warren bought a ticket to Miami. She hadn't seen her family in almost a year. She wired ahead saying she had big news, a young man she'd met in New York. She was bringing him to meet the family. Carson looked from Murphy to Travis. They never made it. There was an accident up the line that night, and the special was stuck on a siding south of Palm City for hours. And when the train pulled into the station in Miami, Ruth Ann Warren had vanished. Carson leaned forward. His deep chocolate rasp dropped even lower. The cops never found a trace of her or her young man. In fact, there was no sign he even got on the train. There was talk he was the son of a mafia don, but... Carson shrugged. To this day, folks swear they've seen her walking these aisles late at night crying, or standing beside the tracks watching the train. A railway ghost. Murphy raised an eyebrow and stretched. Interesting, but I think we're about due to check the horse box. The railway car jerked. What the hell? The rhythmic clatter of iron wheels slowed, and the cars lurched as the train eased onto a siding. Sorry, folks. Short delay. Nothing to worry about. The stocky conductor swung down the aisle with the gait of a man used to keeping his balance against the erratic sway of a fast-moving train. He nodded to Travis and Murphy. We got a red light up the line, detectives. We'll wait here till dispatch clears us. Murphy's eyes narrowed. He looked at Travis. Without a word, they headed for the rear of the car, Carson hard on their heels. The boxcar's single occupant whickered softly as Travis flipped on the overhead light. He grinned. Murph, go make nice with the horsey. I'll check in with the conductor. Be right back. He headed through the accordion coupling. Murphy grabbed a handful of horse nuts from the feed bag. You want to meet the star of this sideshow? He glanced over his shoulder to where Carson had been standing. Something hard slammed into Murphy's back, drove him to his knees. His head hit the metal cross bracing on the filly's stall with a sharp crack. Then Carson was on top of him, kicking and punching, clawing at the detective's shoulder holster. Dazed, Murphy tried to roll away. A flailing fist connected with the side of his head, and everything went dark. When the waves of blackness receded, Murphy was propped against the open side door of the horse box. Gouts of steam from the loosened coupling clogged the air. Carson had looped a length of rope through the filly's headstall and was trying to lead the frightened horse through the swirling clouds and down the wooden ramp. Ears flat to her head, teeth bared, she plunged and backed. Whoa, girl, easy now. Murphy lurched to his feet. What the hell was keeping Travis? He staggered towards Carson, and a young woman in a white dress appeared out of the mist. Crying, frantic, she waved her arms over her head. The horse screamed and lashed out. Her iron-shod hooves struck Carson square in the face. He flew backwards and tumbled down the steep incline beside the tracks, crashing through the thick undergrowth. Murphy grabbed the horse's headstall before she could bolt. The filly's eyes rolled white, but she calmed and stood, shivering. Murphy leaned against her heaving side and waited for his head to clear. Travis and the conductor pounded up the gravel beside the track, April and her cameraman close behind. The railway man took one look at the coupling and radioed the engineer and the dispatcher, then set to work. Travis shut the filly in her stall and helped his partner down the ramp. Jesus, Murph, you okay? Where's Carson? He jumped me. Tried to steal the horse. Some girl came out of nowhere and spooked it. It kicked Carson in the head. Murphy pointed to the torn-up brush. He's down there. What girl? The girl in the white dress. Murphy caught a flash of something through the gap in the underbrush. Over there. Travis and Murphy skidded and crunched through the broken, flattened bushes. April picked her way down, wary of snags. Oh, shit. Travis flung out an arm to stop her. She peered past his shoulder to where Carson lay sprawled in the dirt, what was left of his face a bloody mask of surprise and fear. "Y'all see that?" April's cameraman followed her shaking finger. He switched on his rig and started rolling on a perfectly framed close-up of a mummified arm sticking out of the earth beside Carson's body. It was shrouded in the tattered, filthy remnants of a white sleeve. "Tell me you're getting this," April said. The conductor puffed down the hill and mopped his forehead. "We're all hooked up. Good to go." Travis glanced at Murphy. "I guess Carson was right. Ruth Ann really did want to be found." The train man stared at the arm protruding from the ground. "Is that her? Ruth Ann Warren?" Murphy frowned. "No idea." "Well, fellas, if it was her," spooked the horse, "she just saved our lives. Carson unhooked the brake lines, and if he'd got away and uncoupled that boxcar, it would have rolled back on the main line. The northbound freight would have plowed into it and derailed both trains." Travis stared at the shriveled remains. Another wreck of the old 49. Thank you, Ruth Ann. A few hours later, the express pulled into the railway station. The relieved detectives delivered their charge to its proud owner, who was making the most of the free publicity. Flashbulbs flared and cameras rolled as the mayor shook their hands. "Detectives, thank you for thwarting that horse thief and solving a 50-year-old disappearance." He aimed a broad wink at the gathered reporters. "Carson must have been insane to think he could use a train wreck to cover up his crime, especially with two of our city's finest on board." A beatific smile lit Travis's face. Murphy leveled a warning finger. "Don't even think it." Too late. As Travis pumped the mayor's hand, he leaned into the microphones. "Too right, Your Honor. It was purely a locomotive."